Hello, Style Esports fans. My name is Shinkari. I'm joined by True Tabaga, and here we are in game number one of our. Here we are. We are in the season 16 playoffs of Style Esports, and we are in the Ish Tall bracket. We're in round 14 of the lower bracket here. Two teams ready to duke it out here. Stunned Gaming Invictus up against Catalyst Eclipse. Now, if you haven't been following along with the bracket, there's a huge one, so it'd be I wouldn't blame me if you weren't. Catalyst Eclipse was just knocked down into the lower bracket by Glacial Knights here, and Stunned Gaming Invictus are still on their way through the gauntlet to get over to the finals. Now, the winner here is going up against PSE Dawn. So let's see how these two teams are ready to duke it out here. Bands are nearly finished for phase one here. True, are you ready?
Thank you, Shinkari. Yeah, I'm absolutely ready. Stunned Gaming Invictus, definitely a team that I, in particular, always check in on. How are they doing? Darkin is someone who is very well established, I would say, in the amateur scene. At this point, as you said, Catalyst Eclipse just knocked down here into the lower bracket. They want to continue. Both teams absolutely want to continue on, hopefully make the final. But as you said, this is an elim match. It's a best of three, so every single game counts, and really want to set the tone really well. And I gotta say, a lot of focus by Catalyst Eclipse towards that bot side of things. Stunned, on the other hand, three mid lane bans really trying to pinch Catalyst Eclipse mid lane pool.
Yeah, I mean, these are also pretty safe picks as well. Like Syndra and Victor are big scaling champions, really want to stay in lane and play safe and really get to that point where they are unstoppable machines. And really taking that off the table kind of forces Catalyst to kind of change up their game plan here. And it seems that they're going into this direction as well, right? We take a look at Jarvan. Hard to argue that Jarvan is a very much an early game focused champion. Very good at dueling early game, very strong level 2s, level 3s, has some decent clears. And level 6, he's a big boy. He's a big boy tank with that nice Cataclysm to line up a lot of very nice ultimates to go into that as well. So excited to see how the rest of the team is built around it. On the other side, however, we got two marksmen right off the bat, Graves and Tristana. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so with the Jarvan pick from Catalyst Eclipse for that B1, right? They're not showing anything off. J4 is something that's still very relevant with a lot of people. Stunned responds with Graves, who has strong clears, can scale really, really well, but then they also lock in Tristana, which still functions as a flex pick between mid and bot. So, while they have a lot of AD, a lot of damage already with those first two picks, they're not showing off a whole ton because you know where Graves is going. You can flex where you want to send Tristana. Catalyst, on the other hand, you already know where J4 is going to go. Orianna, not flexible at all. Nautilus now being the hover, and then the lock. Catalyst Eclipse going very direct, very forward. We're not messing around here with any of our picks. You're seeing what our game plan is. And honestly, it's not a bad one at all, right? There's a lot of engage, a lot of hard CC, and a decent power gradient already between the Orianna and the J4. So I like what they're showing off. Stunned responding with the Taric to enable a dive comp, looks like. I like that.
Yeah, I definitely like that too. I think my only hang up about Taric is that Taric is really good with a lot more melee champions. With 3 picks already locked in, especially one such long range as Tristana, Taric might just be on the defense plan, right? Of just hey, I'm just going to sit near this Tristana, and if this Jarvan or Nautilus try to dive, then that's going to be my job, right? Stick in melee range, heal Tristana as much as possible, and use my stun kind of defensively more so than enabling kind of a Master Yi or a Wukong or someone with a very strong engage. I mean, that could still happen, right? We still haven't seen the rest of the picks here. Mid lane and top lane are still available for Stunned Gaming Invictus here, so it'll be interesting to see. I think so that's kind of my hang up right now. Taric can easily get poked out. Depends on what is picked here for Catalyst Eclipse. Their AD carry and their top laner are still yet to be locked in here. I'm expecting something that can either combo with the Jarvan or is just supremely high damage, because there has to be some damage in this so far, right? The early levels are definitely going to be Jarvan and Nautilus, But once we get into the late game, like this damage has got to come from somewhere. Not that Orianna can't deal damage, but Orianna definitely more useful in the CC disruption kind of category than in the just the raw damage category.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I would like to see something that can either play along with the Jarvan or the Orianna really well, or like you said, something that brings a lot of damage. Like Orianna, Jarvan, Nautilus, they all have a very direct idea of a power gradient. You have a lot of CC from those champions, but what you're lacking, like you mentioned, is damage. Like you need something to carry with all that engage, especially when you see something like a Taric and an overall pretty squishy composition that Stun Gaming Invictus is looking forward towards. Because if
Yeah.
you have the damage to blast through the Taric, because the cast time is like 2.5 seconds, it takes a while for that ultimate to come down, then you can completely, invalidate what Taric ult can bring to the table. But Catalyst Eclipse, it's like there's a different idea on their mind as they lock in the Ornn, another tank of like strong team fighting, a lot of AoE that Catalyst are drafting for themselves.
Yeah.
But they need to lock in something that has at least now a decent amount of DPS. This is supposed to be their their ADC pick, their bot lane pick. It's going to be Kai'Sa. Brings a little bit more mixed damage to the table. I like that. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but that lethality Kai'Sa build that's been popping up works really quite well, especially with the added utility of having the Umbral Glaive in the inventory. So interesting from Catalyst Eclipse. Whoa, stunned. Is that going to be their front line?
I think that's just a slam dunk here, honestly. I mean, you can't get better. You can't get better than Poppy at this point. I'm fairly certain she denies all of the engage from Catalyst Eclipse at this point, and this is honestly really good for them. I think Stun Gaming and Invictus have basically, and this might be just a little too, maybe I'm just already like too much of a fan of this, but I think Stun Gaming Invictus is really looking good with this team composition right here. I'm a big fan. And it's not mostly because it's mostly because it doesn't seem like Catalyst Eclipse has really punished this Taric pick here, right? Like it looks like they're looking for like a really long team fight here. They, unless there's like some high burst damage from this excuse me, this lethality Kai'Sa that you were talking about. That's really going to be a lot of the damage. You talked about like the cast time on Taric Ultimate, and trust me, I play Taric a lot. It's one of my favorite champions. I know that Ultimate is really good, but it does have a long cast time. That Impervious really, really good, but if your opponent can burst you down before you can gain that invulnerability, it's worth nothing, right? So, but Catalyst Eclipse didn't really build a lot of burst damage here. If they want to go a long team fight, they've got it, right? But Taric and Poppy are going to be able to tank through that. They're going to be able to stuff your engage onto their backline. And Tristana and Graves are going to get a lot of free hits here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other thing that is really worth touching on, something that you mentioned earlier, is the fact that, Stun Gaming Invictus, like, most of their composition is pretty short range, right? You think about Graves, Neeko, and obviously Poppy, Taric, their melees, but Tristana is a champion that has, some of the longest base range in the game, especially the later and later you go. In Catalyst Eclipse, they're going to be hard-pressed to pressure that Tristana, especially if they don't, find a really strong early game advantage, because let's say you go to that 40-minute late game period where Tristana is very much scaled into the game, and you take a look at the tools that Catalyst Eclipse has available to them, the engage, the pressure that they have to exude on that Tristana with a Taric ult, with a Neeko ult, with Poppy in addition to that, it's so hard to get onto that champion. There's such a high degree of safety, strong scaling that can be for Trist, that honestly, Catalyst Eclipse, if you go to that sort of late game point, the only person who might be able to directly threaten with CC would be Nautilus with depth charge. Right. And if that's what you're banking on, that's not a good thing. I'm also a support player. I've played a lot of Nautilus. Don't look at my win rate on him right now, but like the thing is,
God, I know that feeling.
yeah. Like you like the champion, you feel like you're doing well with it, and then all of a sudden this is not working out. But the thing is that, targeted CC, it's something that's in rare supply, and Nautilus is one of those champions that brings it to the table, but you can't only rely on one tool. And while Catalyst Eclipse have like a really strong idea of how they want their team fights to look in the early to mid game, by the time things get to like mid to late game, they're probably sweating if they haven't even cracked the base yet, because Tristana scales well, and the composition that stuns have here is actually very good at punishing like an overzealous engage, like J4 jumping in, like Ornn and Nautilus trying to dogpile on top of that because you have that Terracall. So if you don't kill the carries within 2.5 seconds, Tarek is probably going to save the team fight for you.
Yeah. And that's kind of the big thing here for me, right? Is the biggest question mark is how does Catalyst Eclipse play around the Terrac ultimate? And the other question is, how boring is Stun Gaming Invictus willing to play, right? Because that's the other question too, right? Because if they play super boring, like this Kai'Sa is almost never getting into this backline, right? Like you said, depth charge, very powerful ultimate against this team. It's the only way to kind of get into that backline, especially with Poppy and Tarek being solid frontline here, right? Excuse me. And that's the big question, right? Because if Kai'Sa gets into this backline, it's it's like it's very powerful, right? Especially with this lethality build that you've been touting, that we've been talking about, right? It's very, very important because there's a lot of squishy members on that team. Even Tarek could fall to lethality if not built properly, right? Now, obviously, he's gonna give armor to himself and his bonded ally, and that'll help out with the lethality quite a lot. But ultimately, he's still a support, right? And so he's gonna be tank light, right? He's gonna have some tanky stats, but he's not going to be as strong as Poppy or Ornn, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And the big thing for me is that depth charge, that range, not so big, right? You're going to have to kind of walk directly into their team, right?
Yeah, very telegraphed.
And that's just, once again, how boring is Stun Gaming Invictus looking to play? Because they can just abuse their range advantages between Tristana and Neeko, especially in this later portions of the game, and just kind of like, hey, like, are you going to try and hit our Tristana? Because our Poppy can just stand in front of Tristana all day long. You can try to dive her, and then you'll get stuffed the second that you try to do so, right? And you can be like, oh, well, Ornn ultimate plus, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, how boring are they willing to play that, like, we can just sit back and auto you or just throw out spells from really far away and you can't really do anything about it? And, and then, oops, we got the engage, Tarek ultimate. And then you don't have the burst damage to follow through. So these are the big questions that I'm looking to see if we can get that answered and see how Catalyst Eclipse is going to work with these predicament, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that is most prevalent on my mind, and you've definitely touched on that a bit, Shinkari, is, Stun Gaming Invictus, you call it patience, and I think that's exactly it. You need to be really cognizant of when your team is strong. I think the person who probably needs to be like the most well aware of not like don't make mistakes, don't fall behind, is in this mid lane. Not just because of the disparity of ranks between Pastor, on the side of Eclipse, and then I believe, I'm blanking. I think it's Spectre on the side of Stunned. The problem is J4 is an incredibly strong champion in this early game jungle. You can get a lot of ganks off. And if you work with Nautilus and Neeko is auto-shoving wave with her abilities, then you can absolutely destroy that matchup, and Neeko stops being relevant. So if there is a pressure point that that needs to be pressed, then I think that's the one that Stun needs to be the most aware of. Like, Neeko has to play safe. Don't fall behind early. Like you said, be patient.
Yeah, for sure. But with that, we are going to take just a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be on the rift of game number 1 of Catalyst Eclipse versus Stunned Gaming Invictus. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. All right, Style fans, welcome back. Here we are on the Rift of game number 1, season 16 playoffs. We got Stunned Gaming Invictus versus Catalyst Eclipse. Catalyst Eclipse is blue side. Stunned Gaming is on the red. My name is Shinkari. I'm here with True Tabaga, and we are ready to get this game underway. We got ourselves a 5-point start. We are ready. No shenanigans at level 1 this time round, and we are ready to get things underway.
Yeah, I mean, things working out a little bit better for Eclipse just because you can see Big Spicy is able to walk forward, get that ward down on the blue, so they do have that information that Brunswick is starting on blue, which isn't too much of a surprise, but hey, it's always nice to have the info. Other thing that I do want to talk about, though, is on... I feel like I'm going to butcher this, like, a Laver and Enyo. Definitely some surprising choice on the on the rune setup, especially with the
Yeah.
Tarek taking aftershock. You and I were talking about that right before we got in here, and aftershock is typically not what you see on Tarek. You should go for Guardian. Aftershock is very aggressive.
Yeah, not to mention the Hail of Blades as well. It's not let's be clear, it's not a bad option for Tristana, and it certainly makes sense, right? But sometimes if you're going for a more if you want a little bit of a more consistent game, usually folks are going lethal tempo, right? Even that extra range you can get after proccing the whole thing is very, very good for you, even after that very late in the game, right? But
Yeah.
holy moly, Hail of Blades is like, we're going to get level 2 first, and then we're going in, right? But that's not happening. That is certainly not happening right now in this bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like both bot lanes hit level 2 just about the same time, so not too much for Stun Gaming's bot lane to abuse in that regard. Everywhere else on the map, it doesn't look like too much is happening. You've seen some abilities being thrown around in the mid lane, but honestly, I don't expect too much action to happen. See Brunswick clearing towards looking maybe for something to counter jungle, but that side's been fully cleared out.
Yeah,
So I'm not really sure
he's really looking for it too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, he's gonna find nothing and have to dash his way out of there because that's a decent chunk of time wasted, and you might just have to go red to crab or even just right to crab right now.
Oh, Assassin might be looking here. You can see J4 in that tri brush. Doesn't look like it's gonna really materialize into anything though.
Yeah, I don't know if he was spotted out or anything. I think the red team might have just spotted their spidey sense were tingling. Their spidey senses were tingling here, so gonna be backing up. No ganks just yet.
Yeah, in general, like I think the other thing is like you can also look at your own jungler's positioning and their own pacing, and say, okay, well that's where my team's jungler is. Enemy jungler should be relatively similar position. Though the other thing that's kind of key here is that Brunswick hasn't gotten red buff yet, so still needs to clear that out. Instead opts for the Krugs, so probably going to go Krugs into red. Not really a lane that the Graves can look for at the moment, but J4 in a similar spot, so it's all even overall. The exception, though, of bot lane here, Cantasoro doing real well in the farming department, especially compared to the Tristana here at the moment.
Yeah, and this is once again, this is why you take Guardian on Tarek, right? Because we see that stun go out there, and now you've lost your opportunity for Aftershock, and so a lot of damage can go down onto Tristana during this point, and there's not really a whole lot you can do without spending a decent chunk of mana.
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime here. Like, part of me does wonder... Oh, wait.
Ooh, there's the Aftershock. They're going in for Big Spicy here, and Tristana completes the back, so Big Spicy might be in some trouble. There's the Hail of Blaze right there. They're flashing. There's the jump, looking for more of the Ignite ticks.
That
not going to be able to find it this
expended.
time. That's, yeah, they spent a flash, they spent an Ignite, so there's still 2 summoner spells down there, but one pretty big one, you know, is down, that flash on the Tristana there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Big Spicy still has Hex Flash, so you know there is still some engage potential available for that Nautilus. But honestly, if you're Stun Gaming Invictus right there, you feel really bad about that. You know, burning the Ignite, burning Tristana's flash to go in, and really all you get is Nautilus's flash out. You didn't even scare Kaisa into staying, into stopping the back. So a lot of resources expended just for the Nautilus's flash. doesn't feel all too great. And as you said, we saw the I guess power of regression, so to speak, but that really isn't quite good enough. The damage is just not there this early.
Yeah. And this is it also puts a damper on a lot of the aggression, the aggressive like masteries that they were looking to take here. Ooh, flash forward, Plum Blossom on a Pastor here, forcing the flash, taking it incredibly low on that Orianna there. Not gonna be able to find what they were looking for just quite yet.
Yeah, and that's once again a very aggressive move from Invictus, right? The Nico able to get ultimate off, forces the flash out, but Pastor still relatively comfortable, especially staying alive there. You have TP available. Nico doesn't have that, and now with the lanes being functionally equal after that, Pastor still also has a slight CS lead, so small incremental advantages might build up over time for this side of Eclipse here. Elsewhere on the map, top lane, it's all even. Tanks in top lane, wet noodle fight, however you want to call it. Not too much happening, but Brunswick looks to be on the dragon. Don't believe that Assassin or Pastor have actually snuffed that out.
Okay. Got a stun on the Kanto Soro here, but it doesn't look like they wanted to pursue any a little bit more there. But that Aftershock is down for a little bit. Don't know if that means anything, but it certainly is happening. Graves, however, taking Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it might get finally spotted out by Mirage, but doesn't look like there's really anything that J4 wants to do about that. That's a nice, chunk of stats into the inventories, so to speak, for Sun Gaming Invictus, but otherwise, if they don't actually start something off here, whoa, roam from the top lane.
Yeah, that's going to be Spectre in some trouble. That's the Cataclysm coming through. 2 ultis spent, Flash Blood, first blood earned. And Spectre goes down to Pastor in the mid lane. Real good job picking up that early kill there.
Yeah, and Ramani Chiraku just roams all the way from top lane down into the mid, has to call the Forge God. And honestly, the other part of that was having those brittle stacks available. Ends up getting that additional damage onto Spectre, makes the kill incredibly easy, especially because that's a flashless Nico. Although Brunswick might be looking here in the bot lane. For
stun onto Nautilus, looking for a little bit more. The heal from them is going to keep them alive for a little bit longer. Exhaust comes down onto Brunswick here. Might not be able to find the damage threshold that they're looking for in order to finish off Big Spicy there. So they're just going to scare them off underneath the turret here. Just kind of back away. I'm sure Tristana would love to hit that turret, but not be able to do so just quite yet.
Yeah, bot lane aggression hasn't really quite panned out yet here for the side of Stun Gaming Invictus. Brunswick completes the back, so don't really think there's much they could have committed for, even if Enyo had landed that stun. But if I am Invictus at this point, I'm probably feeling a bit pressured, a bit scared, because you just take a look at Kai'Sa's CS versus Tristana's. That's gone from a single wave maybe 3 minutes ago to almost 3 full waves at this point. Tristana's progressively falling behind here, and that's not what you want to see.
Yeah, not only Tristana, but take a look at the rest of the map as well. Mid lane, top lane, there's some CS advantages all over the map here. And if there's one thing that's going to push Catalyst over the edge, it's just goals, right? Sometimes you can have your best laid plans out for League and draft a really good team composition. They have really good counters here, but if you just fall short in the gold department, sometimes just executing on that plan is just not going to be good enough because the enemy is just smacking you around with their wallets. Look at it right now. It's 1.3k gold in the lead, and that's mostly just CS.
And there's a little bit of the gold from the first blood, but really, ultimately, that's not widely significant when you factor in that every single lane is going the way of Catalyst Eclipse, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the farm. Obviously, there's a kill. It's not just the kill in mid lane, but it's the farm and pretty much everywhere. And that's kind of remarkable in its own way, especially with top lane, when you consider that Ramani Chiraku roamed to mid lane. Walked all the way from top to mid lane and still has an advantage at this point.
Yeah, and then take a look at this. Yeah, even this trade here, too. Yeah.
Okay, Spectre getting aggressive flash for flash.
Yeah, Plum Blossom doesn't really come in as much as they probably would have liked. So they're just going to have to back away. And it's called Pop Blossom, not Pum Blossom. So just in case y'all were confused. I think I'm getting mixed up. There was like an... Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, immediate cleanse. Okay. Real good job there. But now Brunswick in some trouble. Use the dash. So that Cataclysm is real good there. Going to give themselves some space. Flashback in. Cataclysm, good. Here comes Nautilus in from the sides. There's the re-engage there with the depth charge. They're still looking for some more here. Got the root. Can Pastor get some more damage here? But doesn't seem like they're going to be able to find it this time. They're just going to back away. Olivier is going to take some damage from Kanto Soro here. Trying to capitalize on Nautilus being in that mid lane there, but not going to be able to find anything just yet. So yeah, I mean, this is also what it was talking about earlier when it's like, hey, like the CC is good, but where's the damage? We saw Pastor in that fight for a decent chunk of time, and the CC was really great and lined up real well. Weren't able to finish off anyone just quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, we also saw Mirage or Migra Assassin. I got that wrong earlier, but Migra Assassin going into the Cataclysm, right? And as you said, the CC, like Orianna being there was also a little bit of damage to be had, but it ultimately wasn't meaningful enough to kill either Brunswick or Spectre. Both of them were probably scared for their lives at that point, especially when Big Spicy shows up. But none of those kills can get finalized. But the other part of it is that right now, that exact situation was seen, in bot lane, right? Enyo and Lever try to go in, try to get aggressive on the Kaisa. It doesn't pan out. And you actually see the Tristana just throw Buster Shot out to make more distance between herself and Kaisa. And that also doesn't feel good when you see Tristana use Buster Shot for space this early on.
Yeah. Not to mention that, like, fighting this Kaisa is now okay. Stun from Enyo here. We're looking for more. That's going to be a hook. Migra Assassin is nearby. Doesn't look like they're looking to fight anywhere more here, but I think this does give Prio over to the blue team here for this Drake, or at least first spot on it. So, yeah, it's going to be real hard for the red team to get into this pit if they're looking to contest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the presence from the bot lane to help out Migra Assassin. It's also the fact that Spectre is so ridiculously low at this point, just eating damage from Pastor, that there's really zero opportunity of contest for Stun Gaming Invictus. It'd be a mountain map. Oh, all of those bonus stats for Ornn.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this Ornn is probably just never going to die this game. I don't think so. Okay, Tristana got a Kraken Slayer, so that's probably going to be the one thing that's going to be killing this Ornn this game. Holy moly.
I mean, but the only problem with that is the Kraken Slayer doesn't even do true damage anymore, right? It does physical. It's a lot of bonus physical damage, mind you, but when you consider the fact that the damage, Brunswick and Migra Assassin finding each other though.
Yeah, this is going to be the ultimate to give some space. Here comes the Ornn Horn across. He's going to be able to knock up Graves here, but I don't think Migra Assassin wants to go in for more. That's a below a half HP Jarvan right there. Orianna coming into support, but it does look like it's a little too late there with both teams backing off here, so nothing had just yet, but that is an important ultimate down. I don't think anyone's team fighting over anything just quite yet, though. Stun in the bot lane, Big Spicy. Not going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, I was also wrong about Kanto Soro potentially going for that lethality-oriented build. You can see Static Shiv in the Kai'Sa's inventory, so probably going for a more what people would consider standard Kaisa build at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Static Shiv is just really good, right? It's just way too good.
I know that people have been talking about this. That item is not lasting. Like, it's I would be shocked if it lasted into next season with how prevalent that item has been ever since they reintroduced it.
Yeah. It's so wild. Yeah. Like, ever since someone was just like, hey, do you have bad wave clear? Static Shiv. Do you need AoE? Static Shiv. Do you need to trade better? 1v1? Static Shiv. It's like, it's a band-aid that covers most problems, and this was like patches ago, and I'm fairly certain it's been nerfed like at least a little bit since then, but even still, like even now, like we see that Static Shiv so early is going to do a lot of damage to this Taric and Tristana just kind of incidentally, and because of how Taric's heal works, like it's just going to be a lot of free damage.
Yeah, like it's definitely not great to deal with.
Yeah.
So once again, like it works out really, really well for Catalyst Eclipse because they can play things out patiently. Like they can give themselves incremental leads. Like I think the one big like question mark in my mind is, how large is this incremental lead going to get for the Kaisa as opposed to the Tristana? Right now, it's very noticeable, right? 50 CS at 16 minutes is a massive amount of gold in terms of difference here.
Yeah.
Looks like the second Rift Herald is getting started up by Catalyst Eclipse, but just to talk about that advantage really quick. That's
yeah, Big Spicy looking for Brunswick here. Pastor is nearby. But yeah, keep going, because that Shelly's going down to blue team for sure.
It's 1,000 gold. It's just already 1,000 gold between Kaisa and Tristana purely from farming. Like, there weren't really any plates taken in the bot lane, so it's all farm. And if you're the Tristana in this case, you're looking and it's like, okay, well, my opponent's, like, my enemy AD is farming at 10 CS a minute, honestly above that. At this point, I'm sweating because I'm the one who's playing this aggressive Tristana, and I haven't found a way in yet.
Yeah, and it's real true too, because this Kaisa scales off of items a lot better than a lot of other AD carries, right? She gets those upgrades to her abilities kind of directly after she gets those stats, right? So we're probably looking already at an upgraded W, or excuse me, Q.
Yeah.
No, it's close. It's not quite there, but it's still right. Like this is like if you show up to lane against this Kaisa, and she just has even 1.5 items, or even half an item more than you, she's looking a lot better than you are, right? And Tristana, she scales with levels, right? And even now she's down in levels as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good look for bot lane for Stun Gaming Invictus. And talking about how close Kaisa is to that first upgrade, she has a lot of gold in the inventory, right? 2,300, going to go up even more here with that first turret taken. They're going to push for a second charge, it looks like, as well. And yeah, Kaisa's super happy with how things are going, right? Like, things are taken slow. You're not actually getting pressured super hard. Doesn't look like much is going to materialize quite yet, though. It's both mid laners join the rest of their teams here.
Yeah, we're once again, like we talked about that gold lead before. That was, and you kind of mentioned it already when we were talking about Kaisa. It's still true for the rest of the game too. Like, the only place where we see a CS advantage for the red team is in Graves. I mean, it's true for Taric as well, but I don't know, that one doesn't count.
Whoa. Wait. Shinkari. Look at Taric's item.
Wow.
Okay, well, the fight is getting started.
Yeah, that's going to be the depth charge coming across. Yeah, real good smoke bomb already. Okay, call the Forge God coming through. They're going to dive onto Elavier here, onto the backside. They're looking for Ramanichi Rock to take a grill low. There's a Cataclysm onto 4 members on the backside here, but they're able to focus down and get this first kill in this fight. There's Jump Over looking for Big Spicy right here. Can't quite find it. Still looking not too healthy here. Pastor trying to run for their life, and now they're trying to change targets onto Kanto Sora here, but Ramanichi Shiraku is going to be there to body block here. They're going to be able to get away. Maybe they're still looking for it. They're kind of close, but not a lot of ultimates available to finish off this damage. This is so incredibly close. Flashes forward, Zero Thorn looking for it. Gonna be able to find it. And meanwhile, Enyo catching out Big Spicy and Pastor here, or maybe the other way around, but they're not able to finish off the kill here. This is a big turn for Stunned Invictus here. They've closed the gap at least a little bit. Now the only difference between these teams is 700 gold. And they pick up a shutdown as well.
Yeah, and what we were concerned for Catalyst Eclipse for these team fights is exactly what happened. Headed into game, we were like, okay, well, Catalyst Eclipse, doesn't find their fight within that 2.5 second mark. The Taric ultimate's going to come down, their DPS is going to drop to 0, and that the advantage that they've been so carefully constructing for themselves in the past 20 minutes or so is kind of meaningless, because Taric makes everything equalized out at the point, like, when you're fully committed into the fight and all of your damage isn't there anymore. Migra Assassin throws himself in with Cataclysm, and it's not an aggressive move, it's a defensive one. It's giving the rest of his giving the rest of his team time to get out, and they completely lose the fight. And now gold is pretty much evened up. Now, granted, a lot of that gold didn't go exactly where you might want it to go, right? 2 kills over into the Poppy, but they get that next dragon stacked up for them, and because it's Mountain, it makes the job of Catalyst Eclipse that much harder, right? It makes Stun Gaming that much tankier, and if you're giving yourselves more survivability, when it's already difficult for the other teams to kill you, then the other team, like, the team fights get that much more frustrating.
Yeah, not to mention that, like, this Tarek, like you mentioned, that Jock show, expensive, really. Like, it's a really expensive item. We don't typically see it on supports because of it, right? Usually we want to see, like, a locket, right? Especially with Tarek, right? That's just that extra defenses to your partner, right? It's really, really good on Tarek. But this Jock show, especially in comparison with it, or in concert rather, with this Mountain Drake, means that that's going to be a lot of defensive stats on this Tarek here. It's going to be a lot more tanky than usual, right?
Yeah.
Which means this kind of flat damage that's being built by Kaisa here is going to be a lot harder to get onto that front line there.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, in theory, right? If you get the ideal Tarek sort of game, and the ideal Tarek sort of fight, Jock Show is an item that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, because Tarek is someone who wants to just be in the thick of it, constantly getting his auto attacks off, constantly being able to heal, and so, like, provided that you have the economy to buy that item, it can work really well in the fights, in the right comps, and that's kind of what we saw there just now. Oh.
Yeah, Pop Blossom spent, not going to get a lot of value out of it, but the rest of the red team looking for something here. Brunswick onto Big Spicy. Let's see if they can find the stun or something. There's the Terex down coming out onto Big Spicy here, but a teleport coming out from the top side here. You got to be careful. They're in a rather precarious spot here, but they are surviving pretty well. And turns around. There's a stun onto Jarvan. There's some decent damage, but the Poppy ultimate is going to knock him out of there. Brunswick looking for Ramen Ichiraku on the top side here. Gets a decent chunk of damage, but doesn't quite seal the deal. It's a little bit of a sticky situation, but the red team is able to get out of there pretty positive here. They're looking for a Baron.
Yeah, I mean, that's an aggressive Baron call, but it doesn't look like Catalyst Eclipse have any idea it's happening. They don't have any vision in that area. It is lit up like a Christmas tree for Stun Gaming Invictus. And Catalyst Eclipse, that's just going to go. Like, they have zero clue. They just think that they full reset. Baron's going to be gone in just a moment here, and yeah, there it goes.
I mean, but they're still
sneaky Baron.
I mean, they also have to get out of there. Brunswick might be in some trouble here. Jarvan has shown up. There's the dash. There's the hook. There's a whole lot of problems. Brunswick using the ultimate and the flash in order to gain some distance here. Tristana is nearby with the Buster Shot if she needs to use it. The 3 members underneath the turret here. Big Spicy looking for a little bit more. There's the hop, but it gets a mid-hop. Real good job. Migra Assassin forcing the flash. There's the Cataclysm. No jump yet. There's the Summoner heal. Here comes Poppy in from the backside here. Going to get Migra Assassin away and isolate Big Spicy. Taking incredibly low. There's the rest of the damage. Graves is going to follow it. Here comes Spectre in from the side. The Pop Blossom is back up. There's a huge amount of damage. Xenothorn goes in. Double kill for the Graves. And now Ramen Ichiraku is the only member of the blue team left here. There's the Root. There's the Unstoppable. He's trying to get something out of this, but he's not going to find anything. The meatball has rolled off the table and onto the floor. Ramen Ichiraku goes down.
Oh, man. It goes from bad to worse for Stun Gaming Eclipse. Or not Stun Gaming. It was, Catalyst Eclipse, right? They wanted to commit for something. They're like, oh, crud. We lost the Baron. We didn't think they were going to do it. But maybe we can get Graves. And, yeah, they find the hook. They find the CC. And it becomes the story that you and I were talking about was going to happen. You have the CC. Where's your damage? Like, yes, Kaisa flies in with Killer Instinct, but no, like, Graves is just able to walk it off. Ends up having that defensive presence from the Tristana, and then the Poppy TPing in behind works out so incredibly well for Stun Gaming Invictus, and now they are at a very, very noticeably, like, decent advantage here, 24 and a half minutes in. And honestly, I gotta say, Shinkari, they're completely in control of the game.
Yeah, and now Graves just back to 2,500 gold and just slams down a Lord's Dominic's regards. Like, my man's was about to leave and have like a long sword, right? And now he's back. It's like, oh, cool, 2,500. that's some nice HP bars y'all got there. Would be a shame if something were to happen to them. And now they're kind of doing the same thing that happened to them before. The kind of trade for that Baron was that mid lane turret, and now they're doing the same to the blue team right here. Nice dragon you got there. Would be a shame if you lost all your mid turrets.
Yeah, I mean, now they're also trying to run back into their base. They're going to be pinched here.
Oh, there's the Poppy ultimate. There's the Pop Blossom on 4. The Call of the Forge God comes through, but there's no Forge God to knock it back. These HP bars aren't low, though. Watch out for Contosaur on the backside here. They might be able to do something. Orianna gets 2, but Eliaver is turning this around. Can they get something else past her? Still looking on some low HP bars here. It ends up being 2 for 2, and it's going to scare the red team away.
Okay, honestly, if you're Catalyst Eclipse in that situation, considering how that fight broke out, how catastrophically bad it looked, with the Pop Blossom, with Poppy's steadfast presence getting, I believe, 3 bounces, right? Trading 2 for 2 in that situation is actually pretty good. The gold goes all onto Orianna as one of your main carries, and it works out for Orianna there, because a lot of the itemization, a lot of that defensive itemization, probably with the exception of Enyo's, but otherwise for the rest of Sun Gaming Invictus, any defensive itemization is mainly armor. So it works out really, really well for the Orianna, who's all magic damage. You saw Contasoro kind of try to go into the backline, get some kills, get something done. It didn't really work out. Kaisa at this point, you are definitely orienting yourself more towards magic damage because that's what's harder to itemize against. The other silver lining, so to speak, are the Ornn items that are starting to come in as well, and you can we just saw that Ramanichiraku upgraded Pastors. So the gold difference in that regard slightly closes. I think if you are Sun Gaming Invictus, you have to be acutely aware of how strong Orianna is going to be in these fights now.
Yeah, and it's definitely looking pretty good. I mean, also, can I really quickly just say that the Ornn item name for Jock Show, the Unspoken Parasite, is the most metal thing in this whole game, right? It rules. As a side note, really cool. The Unspoken Parasite's so cool. I mean, other than that, it's Deicide, which is Deicide is so good.
Pastor's in a very precarious spot right now. They're all coming for the Orianna.
Yeah, this is the last outer turret here, so they're still looking for something here. They're gonna force the flash and the stun here. But yeah, I mean, this is looking like the game plan here for Stunned, is they're trying to take every single turret they can.
I mean, by virtue of that outer turret still being up, yes, Pastor is able to get some breathing room. But as you said, marching down the lane, they want that inner bottom lane turret as well. I think good move. Oh no, there's a stun.
Oh yeah, slammed in the wall, dazzled up, but not going to be able to find any sort of living this time. The bot lane of the blue team here trying to do some trades on turrets, but there's Pop Blossom, and Kaisa's in a whole lot of trouble. But good CC from Big Spicy there. They might be able to turn it around, but look at this bottom lane here on the blue side. They are losing a whole lot. They're going to have to make this as even as they can, and that's going to be really good to give them that opportunity to do so. That's a bot lane inhibitor traded for a mid lane inhibitor turret. Not... It's a lot more even than you'd think after going 1 for 1 here at the end of this kind of long trade. But you got to wonder if they were stayed just a little bit longer, if they were able to get the inhibitor there.
I mean, honestly, I think they would. They could have greeted out a little bit longer, but you know, if they did, maybe their backs would be delayed and they run the risk of getting caught out. But yeah, it's a nice silver lining for Catalyst Eclipse to get that mid lane broken open for themselves, especially after having their bot lane cracked as well. They're still at a noticeable disadvantage, and honestly, if I'm on Catalyst Eclipse at the moment, I'm starting to worry about this Tristana, because not only do you have to deal with a substantially, tanky Poppy, you're also thinking about this Graves who has a ton of damage, but also Tristana who's starting to scale.
Yeah, that's a Taric ultimate. Good shockwave to take the team backwards, but the TP is finishing. Here comes Ornn trying to get out through there. Might just win so too, but Zero Thorn is in the backside here. That's going to be the first ultimate 10. And the Call the Forge God goes through, but the damage is good for Micro Assassin in order to finish them off. Not going to be able to find that second. Actually, they will find that second kill on the Nico there. It's 2 for 1. You're taking this every day of the week right now if you are Catalyst Eclipse. Okay, Elavier goes over the wall here. Good stun, but now they're going to get dove here, hop back over to safety. abandon the team a little bit here. Zero Thorn trying to get away. That's a whole lot of damage onto the Poppy. Gets shielded up by Tarek, who now has to do basically the same thing as Big Spicy. Comes back in, goes down. Zero Thorn's going to be the one picking the kill. There's Enyo by themselves here, trying to live through 3 members of the enemy team. Not going to be able to be able to survive this time. It ends up being a 2 for 3 in favor of the blue team, but the red team's just marching right over to the dragon here.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Catalyst Eclipse, they don't have the inside track on the Dragon. They have to be aware of the fact that their bot lane has double supers pushing into it. But on the bright side for them, Migra Assassin's back up. There is the possibility that they can try to contest for the drag just with J4 being on the map. But honestly, it's just really, really funny. Okay, it's Spectre's channeling TP. It's really, really funny to me that, you know, at the end of that fight, for both teams to cap it off, both of the supports completely isolated themselves. They're like, I'm going in, I'm doing it. And then they both realize, like, oh, my team's not here anymore.
Yeah, oops. Oopsie. I mean, I also got to hand it to Elevator there as well. Like, that was some very greedy moves to hop over that wall right into Kaisa and Nautilus there and just being like, oops, and then immediately having to leave. Like, that is not a particularly good situation to be in. So good on them for like, okay, I got my bomb proc, let me get out of here. So we'll have to see. Those Navori quick plates really, really doing some work for them. It's now we got another Baron dance going on here on this top side of the river. Red team once again trying to establish their vision dominance, which they've been having all game here. But they don't really have the positioning to get in there. So it's gonna be a little tough to get in there because this is like one of the only times where I've seen that the red team just doesn't have very good vision in the place that they're trying to go to. But
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, they might not have vision, but the thing is that they are going to have the opportunity to reestablish it because of the supers pushing in.
Yeah.
And forcing blue team to respond. You can see Pastor back there in the base to clear out that double super wave, and the rest of the side of Catalyst Eclipse, they have to walk here as, you know, a unit. And they have this opportunity to start up Baron because they know exactly where the Ori is.
Yep, and that's the depth charge right there, and the TP in. That's going to be called the Force God as well. Big. That is huge with Graves Gun. That's a huge source of damage out there. Olivier is going to be able to find the kill on a Jarvan, but can they find anything else? Enyo is taken incredibly low here. They're going to go down next. Zero Thorn is going to be the next target as Olivier is dashing in and out of vision here, trying to keep them alive for just a little bit longer. They can't quite find the Tristana, but that does not matter. The rest of the team has been deleted, and now Olivier has been hit by the rockets. Do they have the ultimate? There it is, diving right in. 1v1, so close, no cigar this time. Kanto Sorrow is going to be the one picking up the kill this time.
All of that isolated damage going right onto Olivier. It's that was catastrophic. And speaking of catastrophic, the game just got turned on its head. Shinkari, you know, we were talking about how vital Tarek Ultimate is as a tool for this side of Sling Gaming Invictus, and it absolutely is. But this time around, not only was Tarek Ultimate unable to cover for Brunswick, who got just popped at the start of the fight, for the rest of the team, Tarek Ultimate came down too early. Like, honestly, Catalyst Eclipse hadn't fully committed yet, and because of that, the Tarek Ultimate expires before a lot of those key tools get used. So I believe the depth charge was still up, the shockwave was still available. So, and really the only thing that had been used was J4's engage, and because of that, it really gave Catalyst Eclipse this opportunity to reestablish themselves in and have a fight that they wanted. Because they get completely split apart. Brunswick with all that gold on this Graves, all of that is completely meaningless if you don't get any damage off in the fight, and you're the first one to go down. So now, with their inhib respawn, Catalyst Eclipse have wind in their sails once more, and they have the Baron buff. They can start re-exuding control over the map.
Yeah, not to mention that this Kaisa is looking very powerful as well, right? We've got the Ginsu's Rage Blade finally finished up and powered up by Ornn. She was even able to buy a Zhonya's Hourglass as well. I think that might be all of her. Yeah, I think that's all of her abilities upgraded for sure. Yeah, 100%. All the abilities are upgraded now, and that's got to be really, really scary to take a look at because those W rockets, those hurt a lot. Especially upgraded as well, and that amount of magic damage that Kaisa has right now, especially with those Magic Bend boots, nothing to sneeze at, right? Because there's not a whole lot of magic resist built. Never mind. I saw 2 Force of Natures. I was about to say, like, they've been itemizing a lot towards towards armor. No, that's fine. I'll eat my words. I'll put my foot in my mouth. That's 2 Force of Natures right there.
No, I mean, like the other thing though is, and this is a topic that's kind of been discussed to death at this point. Merc treads are ultimately not super useful in regards to the amount of MR they provide. Yes, it does give you a little bit, but you're primarily getting them for purposes of tenacity. And if we're being completely honest here, like there's not much tenacity reducible CC that
Yes,
Chaos Eclipse has. Now,
it's all airborne.
granted, like
Nearly
how
all of it.
many
Yeah.
auto attacks are they getting off? I think you can like talk about how contestable it is as far as boost choices go, but yeah, it doesn't really feel great considering like now how much damage is available for the carries on the side of Catalyst Eclipse. Now it's 3 dragons apiece. You know, it's all evened out now.
Mm-hmm.
So both of these teams, like we're getting into this ultra late game portion of the game, where one bad fight can completely dictate, you know, who wins, who ends, especially with both teams having their base broke open.
Yeah, it
Oh
really is a
man,
point.
that rocket.
Yeah. Okay.
You were
Whoa.
just talking
Whoa.
that's aggressive.
Zero Thorn flashes in, throws out the ultimate, doesn't really find a whole lot of CC, and the rest of the team is now here. Taric ultimate does follow through. Call the Forge God is good. And now the rest of the team comes to Pop Blossoms big. Can they get the kills? Nico's going to be able to find one, but Orange is going to be able to find another in response to this. Kaisa is doing so much damage here. Brunswick in some trouble. Flashing damage. That's the ace. This is what you were talking about. One bad team fight could be the end of the game, and that's exactly what's happening with the blue team as they are marching it down. Catalyst Eclipse takes game number 1 here after a very shocking engagement from stunned Invictus here, as they are just going to clean house. Game number 1 goes to Catalyst Eclipse.
Yeah, and they had to come back into it. Honestly, things were looking very, very grim for them at the midway point of this game. It really looked like, you know, Stun Gaming Invictus were going to play towards their win conditions. They were going to play it. They're going to play it relatively patient, you know, find their opportunities. But really, the thing that changed it all for them, Shinkari, was that fight around Baron, about around the second Baron. Brunswick getting completely zeroed before anything could start off. The rest of the Taric ult falling off before any key ultimates get used. And just off that single fight alone, it was almost as though Catalyst Eclipse realized, like, hey, we can completely win this. We don't have to call game 1 a wash. And yeah, they came back and they crushed it.
Yeah, it was a really good game for them towards the end there, especially. Like, this was a very, very good game. They hunkered down really well, because I have to say the best thing that Stun Gaming Invictus did this game was that Baron buff. I think that was possibly the best Baron buff I've ever seen in Style Esports. They went top lane, took all the turrets, took all outer, inner, and then they went mid lane, outer, inner. And even though they lost their Baron buff, they still went bottom lane and went all the way to the inhibitor. Incredibly good job by them during that moment. It's just, once that happened, Catalyst Eclipse did a really good job of saying, okay, let's just hunker down. We don't need to be super aggressive here. Let's just hold on and just wait and wait and wait. And once that inhibitor was back, they were free to kind of like be more aggressive than they normally would. So then they start going for more dragons. They start going for the Baron. And with that aggression, it kind of forces Stun Gaming Invictus, like, hey, like, we're in a spot where we kind of feel like they need to win the next team fight, or else it's game over, right? Which might have said to Poppy, like, hey, I'm going to flash in immediately, ult, and we can turn on them. We can turn this around. But once again, it comes back to, hey, how patient are you willing to play? Because that Poppy play was really, really aggressive, and it did not pay off. And then because it's 40 minutes into the game, it's immediate GG.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, looking back on that Poppy play from Zerathorn, right? Like, it kind of felt like both teams weren't expecting that to happen, because Poppy just started something off, and it looked like the game like stopped for a little bit. Like both teams were like, "Wait, is this happening?" Because you saw Brunswick actually just try walking through the fight to get back to the rest of the team. Like the Graves was once again not really able to do anything, and because of I guess that complete lack of coordination, it ended up just working out really really well for Catalyst Eclipse, especially right before the Pop Blossom comes down from Spectre. Oriana also lands like a 2-3 man Shockwave. So even though you get some CC off with Nico, the CC is already there from Oriana, and once again, it's all even. And at that point, it just comes down to who's able to get their damage off better. And it ends up just being Catalyst Eclipse. So really well done from them, especially considering the deficit they were at early.
For sure. A back and forth game for sure comes down to one big team fight at the end. That's going to be Catalyst Eclipse picking up game number 1 here, but don't go anywhere. We still got more League of Legends to happen. This is a best of 3, which means we have at least one more game to go through before seeing who's going to come out tonight, the victor. We are going to take just a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be in Picks and Bans at game number 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Hello, Style fans. Welcome back. Here we are in Picks and Bans game number 2, Catalyst Eclipse versus Stunned Gaming Invictus. If you're joining us for the first time, Catalyst Eclipse and Stunned Gaming Invictus did have a very back and forth game. It got into about the late 30 minutes of the game, and one catastrophic team fight did turn the game in Catalyst Eclipse's favor. So here we are, game number 3 for these two teams here, and it's going to be Stunned Gaming Invictus going to, and I don't think they really need to fix a whole lot here if they want to get that win. They were looking very, very strong for a good portion of that fight. I think it's mostly just capitalizing on a lot of their advantages a lot more. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, so to speak, Shinkaria. Like, I don't mind the fact, like so many times you see a team stick to the same side after taking a loss, and you think that's not a great idea. Like, but in this case, it really came down to execution and just playing towards their win condition. They made like a small number of mistakes. Honestly, we didn't get to talk about too much, but Pastor really just not ever dying on the Oriana worked out so well for Catalyst Eclipse. And you can kind of see it here already with Stun Gaming Invictus going back to a very similar comp already. You know, they have the Graves, Maokai locked in as well, which, okay, technically you can call that a flex, but Maokai is either support or it's jungle, and you already have Graves as only jungle. So, very strong idea of where Maokai is going. Unless it's what I haven't seen in years, and it's a Maokai top lane, which I'd be incredibly surprised by at this point.
Yeah, and I think Catalyst Eclipse here, I don't think they really need to change a whole lot, right? I mean, in my eyes, I would like to see just a little bit more damage so that when you get these moments of like, hey, we've caught someone, we've lined up the CC, right? You get these small skirmishes, you do have someone to fill in that damage kind of cap. And Ari is definitely good at kind of filling in that mixed kind of bag of like, hey, I'm really good at helping someone catch someone out and then be able to follow up with some decent damage. And Braum, I think Braum is a good follow-up here. Very strong early levels with this Jarvan. If they want to do a support jungle roam duo, this is a very, very dangerous thing to do. I don't think it's really going to happen. But a Jarvan gank on bot lane is going to be very painful. Braum very good at blocking a lot of what Stun Gaming Invictus has already drafted here as well. So pretty good start to the draft here for both teams, I'd argue. You know, the Nico, very successful last game. Graves, pretty successful as well. But the change to the Maokai here is certainly interesting. It looks like that's going to be support.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a whole lot of sense for what we saw from Stun Gaming Invictus last game. Cast Eclipse, obviously they're changing a few things up. They lock in the Ari because the Oriana's banned, and also, you know, Ari was actually banned in game number 1, so Pastor able to get something that I believe they're quite comfortable on. Talking about the Braum really quick, I don't think that Braum has exactly, you know, stellar roaming potential with a J4.
Yeah.
But as you said, you know, when J4 does come down, Braum can coordinate really, really well off of that and potentially make a dangerous situation. So, you know, hopefully that's what Catalyst Eclipse wants to do. But in general, Braum does offer a very high degree of safety. Definitely a Guardian champion. As we were talking about before. We're in that second phase of bans, though. Stun Gaming Invictus, you know, further pinching the AD pool for total bans towards that between both of these teams. And Catalyst, looks like they're going to pinch the top lane pool. They already took away Dr. Mundo. Maybe they don't want to let Poppy through again. Who knows? No, it's going to be Fiora.
That makes me feel like they want to throw a Jax top, maybe? Jax versus Fiora, very volatile matchup, very even 1v1. But the second one gets the advantage over the other, the person who's behind is just like the worst experience of your life. So this could very much be like maybe a Jax angle here in the top lane for Catalyst Eclipse. Perhaps based on these bans alone. Caitlyn gonna be locked in for Stun Gaming Invictus. Pretty good here. I definitely like that. A little bit longer range here. Let's see what Catalyst Eclipse wants to lock in.
Yeah, and Caitlyn, as you said, able to stay pretty safe from a lot of engages. Can also, you know, 90 caliber net her way out of a Cataclysm. So that's something that Catalyst Eclipse probably should be acutely aware of at this point. You're playing against Caitlyn Maokai here. Whoa.
Hey, we're going back to season 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, have not seen this combo in a hot second.
Yeah, time machine back to 2014. Lucian Braum, baby, let's go. I mean, it's such an easy layup of a combo, right? Like Lucian just procs Braum's ult, Braum's passive just so easily. I think if anything, like you really don't get a lot of value out of Lucian's like additional passive of hey, if you buff me, I do more damage. Um, You'll have
Yeah,
to have Braum like W onto him if anything, or buy something that will buff Lucian. But for the most part, like that's a very solid bot lane, and we're running back the ore.
yeah. I mean, for the most part, it's relatively similar beats for Catalyst Eclipse, especially with that jungle and top lock in. Have some beefy boys that can provide a whole lot of AoE presence in the team fights. A bit less so from the mid lane because now you have Ari as opposed to Orianna. Lucian and Braum, though, they can layer down their own damage in their own ways. You know, with the Glacial Fissure from Braum, and then Lucian also having the culling as well. Stun Gaming, though, they round it out with a Mordekaiser. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's they have a. I feel like in its own way, this is a. I think you can argue like I think it just objectively this is less tanky than they were previous game.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you know, Mordekaiser can remove one of those like very hard to get through elements from Catalyst Eclipse, you know, by using Death Realm.
Yeah, I mean, the Shadow Realm is very useful, especially with how relatively short range a lot of Catalyst Eclipse are. I mean, Mordekaiser is probably going to be within range of a lot of these champions pretty frequently, right? Like Lucian doesn't have a lot of range. Like Ari is the longest range champion in this game so far, and that's mostly just because she throws out her spells and then immediately starts backstepping, right? She wants to get kind of close enough to throw out her Q or even her E, and then back up as much as possible before so she can combo her spells, right? So it's definitely something that that is we're gonna have to keep our eyes on for sure because Mordekaiser is another like they've saved this for last, and once again like hey they saved Poppy for last as well. Like that was another counter pick that they were saving for. So they're saving these counter picks for top lane, and you know sometimes against these tanks you want to just deal like a bunch of little bits of damage while they're trying to be in melee range.
Not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I think one thing that was really worth talking about this time around, as opposed to previous game, like in the previous game, we were talking about the relevance of scaling and how both of those teams, you know, you have to be aware of late game presence. Stun Gaming and Invictus, they had a lot more into that late game basket last game with the Tristana lock-in. This time it feels a bit less so. I know that a lot of people talk about how like Caitlyn does just not feel good or as good as she once did, because you go from like an early game where you're pretty decent to like a very like an even worse mid game than before, and now late game like it doesn't feel great. Admittedly, I've seen like different Caitlyn builds popping up with like you go full lethality and your ult just hits like a truck on squishy targets. Do I think that's what Stun Gaming Invictus is going here? Who knows?
Who knows?
But, especially with Enyo's mythic last game, that was definitely threw me for a loop. But I feel like late game for both of these teams is not going to feel like the call for both of them. You don't want either team to hit like a late game point, because it really is going to come down to like one critical team fight at that stage.
Yeah. And we saw that as well last game, right? Like, I think Stun Gaming Invictus does have a good kind of bot lane to kind of pressure turrets, right? Caitlyn and Maokai do make a lot of space between the two of them, right? Like, this is a big opportunity to kind of just, like, play around with the amount of space that Maokai saplings can make, and even being able to punish engages, right? Because that's one of the big things that Maokai can do, right? That Q, very strong tool to stuff engages, to knock people backwards, to give Caitlyn more space to work with, right? And not to mention that like point and click abilities are really good, right? It doesn't matter how fast, like the only real way to beat them is having like a really fast movement speed, which might not happen in these first few levels here, but point and click snare is nothing to kind of sneeze at here. It does kind of set up Graves or even Nico or a Nico roam pretty well, right? And it just depends on how they play the spot lane here, because again, Braum Lucian is just such a strong kind of duo here, and there's not really a whole lot of tools that Caitlyn and Maokai have to kind of deal with it, right? Because Braum engages aren't like Leona or Thresh or Nautilus even, he engages from pretty far away and then walks at you because you're really slow, right?
Yeah.
And even if you're like, haha, Q, knock you backwards, it's Lucian's like, I've triggered the stun. Congratulations, I've done it. Congration.
Yeah.
Confetti flies out.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like as you were saying, it's really hard to get away from that, and especially if you're Caitlyn in this sort
Yeah.
of situation, especially like because let's assume that you are playing up in the lane, even if you have 90 caliber net available, that doesn't always give you enough space to be safe from Braum Lucian. The other thing I think is worth talking about is like you were talking about like Maokai saplings being dangerous, and they definitely still are. But ever since they tried to orient Maokai to being like, okay, guys, like let's tone down the sapling spam a little bit, uh, and they made like they tried to orient Maokai to being a tank as much as possible. I don't see Maokai support as often as it used to be. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have the same bite that it used to have. Um, and with all that being said, I do agree with you. You know, you have that targeted CC on the Maokai, but technically you also have it on Mordekaiser.
Yeah.
Being able to, let's say, remove Ornn before he gets his Call the Forge God recast off can be really, really meaningful for this side of Stun Gaming Invictus. But once again, it all comes down to execution. I think both teams have a very clear idea of what they want to do in this game. Ideally, I don't think either. Like once again, I don't think either team wants this to be like, all right, 35-minute slugfest, let's go,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, agreed.
I feel like this is a lot more of a mid-game oriented comp on both sides.
For sure. Yeah, and if that's where they want to be ending the game, I think the big thing is really getting this Caitlyn a lead, and it's going to be rather easy, right? Lucian has to play really far up. It's going to be really easy for Caitlyn to land some harassing headshots every now and then. It's going to see how I really want to see how Graves paths in these early levels, because last game we saw how Graves treated these first early levels was I'm going to clear bot, I'm going to grab chickens, and then I'm going to invade blue side, right? And he invaded pretty hard, didn't find anything, got crab, went top, couldn't gank, and then had to go Krugs, red, look mid, couldn't do anything and backed, right? And so it's really going to be up to see how Graves and Jarvan navigate these first few levels, seeing whether or not they can get Lucian or Caitlyn a lead. Because if you're looking to win in the mid game, the best thing to do is just to make sure that this Caitlyn hits her power trough and is just worthless, right? Because then your Lucian is going to be significantly more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think everyone's had the displeasure of kind of experiencing when a Lucian's just on in the mid game. It really feels like there's nothing you can do against that. So hopefully, if you are a fan of Catalyst Eclipse, that you get to see that Lucian power come into play. But you're stunned. You got to win here. You got to stay alive.
Yeah, for sure. But with that, we are going to take just a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be on the Rift of Game, number 2 of Catalyst Eclipse versus Stunned Gaming Invictus. Whoever wins here is moving on, and whoever loses is out of the tournament. So big moves need to be done by both teams here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Hello, Style Esports fans. Welcome back. Here we are on the Rift of game number 2 of Invictus. Stun Gaming Invictus up against Catalyst Eclipse. My name is Shinkari. I'm here with True Tabaga. We are in game number 2. Catalyst Eclipse is up one game here. We have the minions have spawned, and we are ready to get this game underway. We had a little bit of a scuffle at level 1, but nothing nothing too extravagant came out of it there. So no summoner spells exchanged just yet. We are just ready to play some good old honest League of Legends.
Yeah, I mean, even though we saw a little bit of level 1 shenanigans, a little level 1 aggression doesn't really materialize into anything. And honestly, I kind of have eyes here on the mid lane just because of how much of a presence Pastor had when Catalyst Eclipse was at a disadvantage. It's really solid on the Orianna, and now able to play something that was banned in game number 1 with this Ahri. Kind of excited to see what Pastor can do with it. Otherwise, I know that you and I were talking about it towards just before the break, and Brunswick game 2 on the Graves. Like, I don't think that he had a awful showing on Graves, but getting caught out in the final 2 team fights, not being able to contribute too much, there is definitely a lot of work that needs to be done again, and hopefully the early clearing this time is going to work out for him.
Yeah, for sure. And he is starting on the top half of the map here, a little bit of an adaptation from the previous game. Hey, if Jarvan starts the same thing he did last game, then I'm going to be able to invade him on the bottom half. And he does kind of have a good read here, a bit of a mirrored start from both these junglers here. I almost said both these gamers. Technically correct, but Graves here is going to go to Wolves, can make his way across here over to Jarvan's red. But I think he might just be doing a full clear for himself and going bottom.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I kind of like how Pastor is making sure the wave is shoved in and is walking towards that bottom side of mid lane. Just in case it can work, like it will work out that Ahri can respond and help out J4 if Graves is aggressive, but it doesn't quite look like that's going to happen. Otherwise, though, farming in the lanes looks relatively even. Slight advantage, looks like, in the solos. But otherwise, yeah, both teams kind of playing it slow. I feel like if you're stun gaming Invictus, you're also just really tense because you're acutely aware of your position that if you lose this game, you are just out. You don't really want to be the one to make the first mistake.
Yeah, it really is that this is something that we kind of talk about a lot, is the kind of the mental of League of Legends, right? And this is kind of it right here. Actually, Anyo, bottom lane here, taking a bunch of burst damage. Spectre in some trouble. Pastor low on mana. Flash forward. There's the stun level for a little more. Burst blood for the Graves. Pastor, Inspector, and Brunswick all spending their flashes there, but it is going to be in the red team's advantage here. Really, really good job. Able to pick up that first blood. A little bit of advantage for this Nico in the mid lane.
Yeah, just some really noticeable missteps from Pastor. Relatively speaking, where you're... Oh, wait, and you're going forward here.
Yeah, good twisted advance there. Going to be able to get Big Spicy pretty low, but here comes the flag and drag from Migra. Going to force the flash away from Enyo here. The turnaround on the Brunswick. That's a decent chunk of damage taken below half host here. Kanto Sora looking for a little bit more. Might be able to slow them down enough, but the dash, the flash, he's going to be able to find a kill, but it's not going to be the red team actually picking it up as Eliver is looking for Big Spicy, but Anyo finds Kanto Sora. These are a lot of kills in the red team's favor. They're still looking for Big Spicy. Oh, just missed it by an inch. Elevator doesn't pick up the kill, but that's 2 for 1 at the end of the day in favor of the red team here. 4 kills so far in this game. This is already looking significantly different from game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, in game number 1, like, there was a lot of, like, passive play and, aggression just not panning out for both teams, but the key thing was that farm was really in the favor of Catalyst Eclipse this time around. The aggression's finally working out for Stun Gaming Invictus. They found their opportunities. They got that first blood in mid lane. They got a very strong fight for themselves in bot lane, especially considering that gold is going on to who you want it to go. And now they're going to get that first dragon too. So everything is coming up. Stun Gaming Invictus in game number 2 very early on here. That being said, falling to an early deficit does not mean the game is over. You just have to be a lot more intelligent with your play.
Yeah, and if anything, like this is just a really good opportunity for the Caitlyn here, right? Coming back with a Noon Quiver and a Longsword and a Doran's is looking a lot better than Lucian's Noon Quiver here. So definitely a good spot to be in if you're the Caitlyn, especially once again, Caitlyn really good at these early levels, then hits a trough. And this is kind of what they wanted here, right? Like we want to get a lot of gold. So once Caitlyn hits her trough, she's still ahead of the enemy 80 carry here. So really going to be important these next few minutes here as we get closer and closer to the mid game.
Yeah, and speaking back towards that point of farming, right? Contasoro was able to get back into lane relatively quickly. Actually, grabbed up a lot of the CS that might have been missed in that earlier circumstance. So, gold between the Lucian and the Caitlyn is close. Right, Caitlyn's about at a 100 advantage, but as far as like stats go, definitely outright stronger with that longsword as opposed to the dagger in Lucian's inventory. But still, not a bad spot considering how the fight went. Whoa, aggressive dash forward from Contasoro, but yeah, not a bad spot considering how fight went for Catalyst Eclipse, like losing a lot of those kills. Really, the only kill that they were able to get for themselves in that bottom lane play went over to Big Spicy. Top lane, Death Run got cast.
Yeah, and Yami no Gameu, Ramen Ichiraku in some trouble here. Here comes Brunswick in from the side, going to cut Ramen Ichiraku off. There's going to be the charge going forward. He's taking incredibly low here. Brunswick might be able to find the kill here. This one more auto is going to seal the deal. Graves picking up another kill on this map, putting them at 2-1-2. 4 kills on the board for Stun Gaming Invictus.
And if you are stun gaming Invictus, is exactly what you want to see, right? You have this early game like powerhouse that is Graves as far as the damage is concerned. Already has that serrated Dirk in the inventory. Got a successful top gank off, got a successful mid gank off, and also has gotten the successful bot gank off. So Graves has visited every single lane, found something for himself. The team is at a very reasonable advantage, but here in bot lane, you can see Pastor and J4, they're coming in.
Oh, yeah, Oliver's in a bit of trouble here. They're underneath the turret. Pastor's going to be taking a whole lot. They got to get something here. That's going to be Enyo picking up one. It's 1 for 1 in the bot lane. Not ideal. Not ideal for sure.
Oh, that is, as you said, not ideal. Like, the thing is, Micro Assassin goes in as a J4, right? Initially starts tanking, but actually walked out of the turret range. And, to their credit, if they had stayed much longer, might have eaten the turret turret shot and also died. That meant Pastor was the one tanking afterwards, and Ahri is not exactly a famously tanky character. And I really like the response from Stun Gaming Invictus. Like, okay, well, you tried to, 4-man our bot lane, we trade evenly, and we get a whole ton of plates off of your mid lane turret.
Yeah, it is going to be answered in the bottom lane here. Once again, Kantosora doing a great job of CSing, has been clearing out these waves really, really well here, and got rewarded with that space, that time to grab some plates here. Anyo, on the other hand, looking for Big Spicy, looking for Kantosoro, maybe trying to scare them off a little bit more. Going to be successful, but they're essentially traded 2 plates for 3 and 1 for 1 in terms of kills here. So it depends on how you look at it, but this gold's still in the favor of Stunned Gaming right now.
Yeah, I mean, things are working out for them much better than they had previously, but another fight potentially breaking out here in bot lane's Pastor showing up.
Yeah, Pastor here a little bit farther forward than their team here. There's the Twisted Advance. Looking on top of them here. Oliver is going to be able to get some decent damage onto the 2. That's going to be Sniper Shot come out. Migra Assassin really, really low. And once again, with that roam bottom lane, Spectre is like, I don't want to go bot lane, and I'm just not going to. So I'm just going to take your turret, I guess. And I think that's a really easy call here. Ahri is going to take some time getting back and has to teleport. And by the time they're back, like that last plate in that mid lane has already taken a whole lot of damage there.
Yeah, and it's not just the mid lane tower beatdown to talk about, right? Brunswick also seeing that J4 is kind of low health on that bottom side, knows, okay, well, J4 has to reset. If I walk into his top side here, oh, look, his blue buff's up, his wolves are up, his Gromp is up. I can just have a field day and I can take all of this. I don't really have to worry about the threat from mid lane because the turret's so incredibly low and Ahri has to defend. And now, that's just an easy first turret first turret mid for Stun Gaming Invictus, and they're very, very comfortable with how things are going.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the CS difference between kind of Lucian and Caitlyn already, and we talked about it before when it was Kai'Sa versus Tristana. That's kind of negated right now, as Elevir, 2 turret plates to their name and a kill and 2 assists. Like, that's looking real good in their pockets. They're might still be losing the CS game, but they're making up for it, and that's really, really big. Once again, you kind of want to shut down this Caitlyn going into her mid-game trough in order to give yourself the best advantage in these team fights, especially around the Drakes that are spawning, especially this Inferno Drake that has just popped up, and both teams are kind of eyeing right now, especially with Cryo bot. But, this Caitlyn is going to be a problem, especially when she goes to cash in this goal. She's sitting on 1,200 right now.
If you're past her, I think you have to be careful here, because you're kind of in a very similar position to how you were when you died and gave up for first blood, but...
Oh. Yeah, Enyo. Yeah, that's going to be the stun here. I think there's no saving this tree right here, but they are going to pop the ultimate here. Brunswick is coming in, but that's going to be 1v3 right now. Not looking too good for you. Tries to get up that ultimate to find the save in here, but it just looks like a sunken cost fallacy as 1 by 1 the red team is picked apart as they gets 3 kills for the blue team. And, Big Spicy crashing forward, looking for Spectre here. Might actually be able to find it. Splashes the charm. Important there. And that's going to be the Dragon going over to the blue team here. That is, I don't want to say it's catastrophic because they're still in the lead, but that is really not good for Stun Gaming right here.
And considering the position that they were in, right, I don't think that Catalyst Eclipse really has much business having as solid of a fight as they just got there. I mean, they're at an outright disadvantage, but as you said, it was like a 1 by 1 situation. First, Enyo gets caught out, and rather than just cut their losses and say, okay, well, we're losing Maokai here, maybe we have to give up Dragon 2, but we would still have 3 healthy members. Instead, Brunswick goes forward, tries to turn the situation around. The ace in the hole gets blocked by Big Spicy, so that damage is completely negated. And yeah, they just picked apart 1 by 1. So many kills, 3 kills for free go over. You lose the Dragon in addition to that. Luckily, so to speak, for Stun Gaming Invictus, there wasn't really a lane to push afterwards in addition to that. So their gold lead, is still relatively decent. It's about 2K. I believe earlier it was about 3. Migra, pretty precarious spot though.
Yeah, forced to flash here, and Zerathorn's coming in from the side. There's the pop blossom there, some good CC, pulling back in. Yami no Gameu onto the Ornn, not going to be able to save your Jarvan this time. But they are still looking for some turret damage here, as they could probably get away with it. Ramani Chiraku. Here comes Enyo as well. They're really looking for the Ornn. Brunswick picks up another 4-2-2. That's an early executioner on this Graves right here.
Yeah, I mean, so Brunswick actually had that. Had the Executioner's Calling, not Executioner's Calling, sorry.
It's the Collector.
Yeah, Collector. There we go. Thank you. But had that Collector in that Dragon fight, just was really unable to use it because of how the damage was just dissipated, and Graves kind of got stuffed. But this time around, right, Ornn is tanky, and J4 can be relatively difficult to kill in certain circumstances. This is not one of those circumstances.
Yeah.
Myra Assassin was completely caught out of position in his own jungle, unfortunately. Had to try to get out and gets popped by Mordekaiser, and even with the Call of the Forge God, the Ornn can't really cause enough disruption to stay alive. And, getting dove by the Maokai showing up there is kind of just like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
For Stun Gaming Invictus. They've kind of refound their lead from earlier, just about at least. So once again, they're happy with how things are going. I think the real tragedy I gotta say for Catalyst Eclipse is just the fact that Big Spicy got those first 2 kills.
Yeah,
it's really rough because you really want that goal to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the both of us as the support players are in agreement. I'm very much a KS stands for kill secured kind of guy, but the second it becomes 2 kills, you're like, okay, well, it's not. I don't think it's kill secured anymore. Yami no Gameu. Zerathorn looking for Ramani Chiraku star chips, getting a decent chunk of damage on him too. He's going to come out. Anya's going to be on the other side, force the flash here. Let's see if they're looking for more. Pop Blossom comes through, doesn't land the knock up here, but Ramani Chiraku is in some trouble. Call the Forge God comes through, and the rest of the team coming to cement the damage here. Spectre taking incredibly low, going to go down. Zerathorn and Anyo now the ones trapped, as Kanto Sora doing a whole bunch of damage. Micro Assassin going to be the one picking up the kill there, as Elvira comes in from the side here. Lavier looking real not too great here. Going to walk around those Caitlyn traps, but she is slowed there. There's the flag and drag. There's the knockup. There's the cataclysm. There's the stun. There's the kill. Migra Assassin's going to be the one picking up the Zerathorn. Tries to get away. Charmed up. There's the damage. Pastor's going to be the one picking up the kill there. And it's nearly a full sweep of the enemy team here, which gives Blue just the free reign of this mid lane right now.
And for 2 team fights in a row, it's a fight around the Dragon Pit that just does not work out for the side of Stun Gaming Invictus. This time around, they throw everything in the kitchen sink at Ramani Chiraku, right? They threw the Death Realm, they threw Maokai Ultimate, and it's hard to kill Ornn. Like at any point in the game, unless Ornn is getting completely stuffed and shut out. Brunswick, incredibly aggressive at the moment. Doesn't look like he's going to get punished for it, right? But they threw so many tools at the Ornn, who was still able to get Call the Forge God off, and ends up missing the recast. But at the end of the day, you expend all those resources, and then you get collapsed on. Of course, you end up losing the fight afterwards. But Dragon's not up, or Dragon wasn't up at that moment, so there wasn't much for Catalyst Eclipse to get. This time, though, it's about to spawn. So both of the teams, full 5-man squads are here.
Yeah, and this is actually a good setup for Elevir here. They have the Caitlyn traps kind of set up here, so it does kind of force the blue team to take this angle here, which might be good for them. Call the Forge God is up one more time, but it doesn't matter. Lucian is down. That's going to be the Maokai Ultimate coming through, rooting up to Big Spicy is in the Shadow Realm right now. Yami no Gameu looking for those locator cards. Not going to be able to find it this time. They're just going to have to back off. They're on the Chemtep trick right now. It is resetting, so that is a little bit important. But it doesn't look like the blue team is going to capitalize anytime soon. It's a 1-for-0, but a lot of the HP bars are low enough that they can't quite answer this dragon right here. So they're going to keep trying to pull it out. I think they're just submitting to the fact that it is just in there. They're just going to grab it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good discipline from Catalyst Eclipse to not commit after losing the Lucian there. They know that without Lucian, it's much, much harder for them to navigate that fight. And Call the Forge God at that point essentially just feels really defensive. As far as gold leads go, I think it's decent for Catalyst Eclipse to kind of keep the gold deficit for them between 2-3K. A lot of Sun Gaming Invictus advantage isn't growing super hard. That being said, they have supreme zone control. We really saw that to a strong degree in the last fight. Caitlyn traps being layered really, really well. Mordekaiser in addition to that. But then, Unsung Hero there, Spectre finding a double root onto, I believe, Kantasoro and Ramani Chiraku. And that double root just ended up meaning that Lucian has no room to move, eats all the CC, all the damage in the world, and obviously you see the dead Lucian there. Ooh, Ramani Chiraku in trouble though.
Yeah, his pathway out of here is cut off. He's going to have to go through the river here. Here comes Call the Forge God, but there's Yami no Gameu. He's in the Shadow Realm, low HP, looking for that Seal of Orichalcos. He's going to put him into a trading card and sacrifice him to the Great Leviathan. Ramani Chiraku goes down. Zerathorn's going to be the one picking up the kill.
I love it. Thank you for all the references.
Sadly, there's only one more season of Yu-Gi-Oh! I can reference, and I don't think they did a lot of Shadow. It was the Egypt arc.
Yeah.
Unless we want to start talking about capsule monsters, in which case I don't want to.
We don't talk about that part of Yu-Gi-Oh! But we do talk about team fights.
Yeah, Big Spicy going to throw out the Glacial Fissure here. Pop Blossom does land here. They might be able to find Big Spicy, taking incredibly low. Brunswick looking for a little bit more. Flashes on the other side, looking for the Braum, but it might have been off a little bit more than they can chew. The ultimate goes wide, and Lucian's going to be the one picking up the shutdown here as Elevir in some trouble. Cataclysm's going to find 3. Pastor comes through, going to be able to root and get the damage. That's 2 for Ari. Can they find one more? Enyo hanging on by just the skin of their teeth, but they got nowhere to go. Migra Assassin picks up the 3rd kill, the 4th kill. Take it. It's 4 for nothing, and Catalyst Eclipse comes out huge.
Yeah, and off of that, it looks like they're going to position for Baron. Migra Assassin's still here. Okay, look, Big Spicy, you're kind of low, but yeah, I mean, they're really well positioned to start this up. There is no TPs available except for on Spectre, and the rest of the team still has to redeploy. That should just be Baron. For Catalyst Eclipse, like, I don't mean to disparage Invictus too much here, but time after time, they had, 2-3K gold advantage. They burn so much. They get so over aggressive on a champion that's not a key target for your team. Right before we saw it with Ornn, this time we see it with Braum, and like the jungler Brunswick, who has like this 400 500 gold bounty, serves it up on a silver platter for Contasoro. And at that point, the rest of the team is still trying to catch up to Graves, and Migra Assassin, with just absolute anger in his eyes, goes over the wall. 3-person Cataclysm. Ari's there to layer on with all the AoE, and now it's kind of a similar case to last game, except it's just happening earlier this time. Catalyst Eclipse are in control of the game.
Yeah, they're looking really strong. The gold lead has finally swung in their favor. Not only that, but they were able to pick up a pretty early Baron as well. And you can see those purpled up minions right now. Really hard to take down that cannon minion. And these turrets are really going to start feeling the pain. This 1-3-1 split by the blue team here that the red team is trying their best at. Oh my god, it's so close! And dives in just a little too late here. And now it's a 1v3 after they tried to save their AD carry, who was already safe. And now, that's another kill. More space to go down this mid lane here as Brunswick. Now he's looking to get a fight in here and take a little bit of damage from the turret, but gotta be careful here. That Lucian does a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, luckily that what works out for Brunswick there is, you with Graves, you layer a lot of your damage in those corridors and compressed zones. So Contasoro, Big Spicy, Migra Assassin, they did actually take a fair chunk of damage from Brunswick there. A Laver, that is just about as low as your health bar can get. I barely seeing any health on that Caitlyn. She limps away back to base, and being the sacrificial tree, so to speak, to keep the Caitlyn alive,
risking life and limb.
Yeah, tree limb, in fact. But
yes.
It kind of looks like Invictus is back in the spot where they were late game for game number 1.
Yeah.
They're starting to play just a bit bullheaded. They're making mistakes, and the more and more mistakes you make, the more they're gonna be punished, or the more likely they are to be punished.
Yeah.
And, okay, to talk about creative mythics, Enyo has a Heartsteel this game.
Yes.
I don't like it.
I don't think I like it either.
The Jock Show game 1 I can understand. The Heartsteel game 2, this doesn't get you much.
Yeah, look, it's a great item on Maokai. I'm not going to debate that fact. Looking for maybe what is it? A moonlight gauntlet or whatever? What is it? Help me out here. You CC someone, AoE does more damage.
Iceborne Gauntlet? Or wait, no, you're talking about Even Shroud. Even Shroud, there we go.
Yeah, Evan Shroud. I mean, that item's great on Maokai. I unlock it Solari, great for helping out Elevir in a lot of this AoE situation. But, Heartsteel is such a selfish item to have as a support. Right? You are going to be tanky. You are certainly going to have a lot of HP.
It takes so long to finish it, too.
Yeah.
He's at 83 stacks at, just about 25 minutes here. Ideally, you have that item in lane and you're getting stacks off of it early.
Yeah. And now you're kind of the only way you can get this is in team fights, because you're never going to be by yourself like you would if you're like an Ornn kind of split pushing as Brunswick. Playing really far forward here. Interesting
because fast and loose. Yeah, he popped the Yolos.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pressing that button on cooldown, so, might as well be a World of Warcraft player at that point.
Yeah, I mean, use of active items is something that I think that is actually genuinely a skill that's very important for League players to have, because a lot of them don't use active items.
That's a Maokai ultimate. Yeah, Pop Blossom comes through, and that Lucian is looking real dead, as that's the shutdown. They're going to be able to find one back on the Graves here. There's the stun on to the Nico taken. A real low here. Pastor coming in from the side here might be able to turn this around, as Zerathorn pulls past her into the Shadow Realm. Yami no Gemu looking for those star chips. Attention, duelists. This Ari is way too slippery. Comes out. They're looking for more. They can't quite find the damage. Enyo comes back in, looking for Ramani Chiraku here. Pastor slides back in. Zero Thorn looking real good onto this Pastor here, but they're going to go down and taking damage. And now Ramani Chiraku is going to be in some trouble here. Zero Thorn has turned this fight around. Can he finish up the job? Yes, absolutely. That's going to be a double kill for the Mordekaiser.
Yeah, I mean, Zerathorn being the hero of Stunned in that situation, finding that Death's Grasp on to Pastor after he'd already used the last charge of Spirit Rush to get out. And the Pastor just dies down to the tick from, I think, what, Demonic Embrace? Yeah. So, yeah, like, Mordekaiser really salvages that fight. And honestly, it started out really, really well for Stun Gaming Invictus, right? They completely eliminated Kantasoro from the fight before the Lucian was able to get a lot of meaningful damage off, I believe. But the other part of that is that, you know, Migra Assassin and Big Spicy were able to last long enough, and the Jarvan's damage right now is still relevant enough to be a threat. Obviously, you got to see Ramani Chiraku and Pastor like fly in on the sides there, and maybe if they had killed Enyo, things look a bit, you know, more different, a bit more even. But what we're kind of seeing here is that Zerathorn is very, very strong. It's not to say that it's difficult or it's easy for Ramani Chiraku to die. I mean, the guy's Orin. It's incredibly hard to kill an Orin with, you know, more and more stats as time goes on. Oh, wait. Soro? It's okay. But
was that an ultimate from Brunswick?
Yeah, that was collateral damage. Or
okay.
end of the line, rather. Yeah, no, it's collateral damage. End of the line is the Q. But yeah, the guy's aggressive. I like.
Yeah.
That at the bare minimum, you can say that he is always out there.
Yeah, which worked at the beginning of the game, but now a little bit of trouble as he does have to force the dash to get out of that Cataclysm there, but the damage follow-up from Lucian is just way too good. The shutdown Do goes back into Kanto Soros. That's going to be the culling coming out here. Looking for a little bit. The charm is so good. Forced to flash away from the Everfrost, but that is still a pretty big kill to pick up there. And the Enyo is looking really low on HP here, so this is a really good call to go right over to the Baron here. We still have teleport in from Ramani Chiraku. Doesn't need to teleport up just yet, but Enyo needs to heal and then come back into the river here. They're going to have to contest with 2, maybe 3, as Nico might be bitten off a little bit more than they can chew here. Contested by Big Spicy, but I think that's just going to be, hey, hey, sir, I'm the bouncer. You're not allowed to come in.
Yeah. I mean, so Stun Gaming Invictus, they do make the response of, you know, like, okay, we have to at least get something here. They get that mid lane inner turret. Yeah. Now, though, that does not look as good. Because if you can see, Olivia is, like, you just saw an MIA ping. They're like, what's Caitlyn doing here?
Yeah.
Dragon's getting started up, and Dragon is already getting, you know, killed.
Yeah.
But now, like, Caitlyn and Mordekaiser, they're in a very awkward position as far as, you know, everything goes.
Yeah, forced to flash over the wall, pulled into the Shadow Realm here. Zerathorn looking for more Pop Blossom, but they're going to just dash over the wall here as Caitlyn continues this escape plan, but not going to be able to do it this time.
Oh, he's out.
Migra Assassin goes over the wall. The taking damage is not going to be enough to eat through that shield. And what started off as an escape plan to try to leave after taking in a mid-inner turret from just the 2 of them turns into a disaster team fight for Stunned Gaming here.
Yeah, I mean, like they don't get the Dragon. They got the mid lane inner turret, which admittedly was kind of a stiff breeze away from falling down. And they don't find anything positive. They don't even get the trade kill onto Migra Assassin. So, yeah, like, once again, it kind of feels like the only thing that they can play around is the Mordekaiser at this point. Like, yes, Maokai is starting to stack up those Heartsteel stacks, you know, 213. Considering where he was earlier, that's pretty darn nice. But really, it kind of feels like Mordekaiser against the world, if you are on the side of Stun. Like, the Caitlyn, not wildly efficient. You know, we were talking about how if you fall behind this Caitlyn at a certain point, you're going to feel useless, and I gotta say that's what Caitlyn kind of feels right now.
Yeah, that's going to be the ultimate too. Yeah, there's 2, Brunswick and Enyo caught out here. Spectre comes in from the side, still looking for something, but doesn't really quite land on any important targets as Elevir just kind of has to dash immediately out of there. Now this team is fractured here. Micro Assassin getting collapsed. Zerathorn getting through here to the backside here. Blue team is all gathered up, but there's still a 4v5 as they're trying to get something, but the damage is just too good to shut down as Brunswick moves through the enemy team here. Micro Assassin taking incredibly low, might be able to find something, but not going to be able to take the tail this time. Ramani Chiraku still looking for a little bit more. There's the R2 going to come through. That's going to be a good, clean sweep onto the enemy team. 5-0, and this might just be the end of the game right here. Baron buff, long death timers, and a full squad. This might be the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, end of the game would be the end of the series. Enyo has got to find some sort of hero play to stall out for at least another 10 seconds here. I don't think the Maokai can do it. As you said, the full squad is there. Maokai's just standing behind the Nexus. They're just calling it. It's over.
Yeah, there's no way into this fight. That's going to be the Nexus exploding. Game number 2, the series and their tournament dreams continue on. A Catalyst Eclipse are going to be your winners for this evening. They're going to move on through the Ishtal bracket. As we can double check if we take a look at the bracket here, they're going to be going up against PSE Dawn next week as they move on. And the winner there is going to be going up against the Glacial Knights, who have been sitting pretty for a little while here. They are feeling pretty safe. So we'll have to see as this goes on. But this does end the gauntlet for Stunned Gaming Invictus here. They are knocked out of the tournament 2-0 here.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, from like, even though this is a 2-0, right?
Right.
Both of these games are honestly quite close. I think that the tragedy for Stunned Gaming Invictus is just that every single time in both of these games that they had an advantage, it kind of looked like they were like, okay, we're ahead, but then like they don't know what to do with it.
Yes.
They focus on the wrong targets. They take fights in inopportune times, and I really have to applaud Catalyst Eclipse for navigating those situations really, really well. Oftentimes, when a lot of teams go to deficits, they don't find ways back in. But having 2 comeback games in a row shows, resilience. It also shows the strong bit of awareness, and you kind of want to see that from these teams in the Gauntlet that want to make their deep run. So really well done to Catalyst Eclipse. I hate to say better luck next time to Stun Gaming Invictus. They had strong showing in this series. It's just a failure of execution, so to speak.
Yeah, and another thing is, like, we talk about in style esports a whole lot is how well do people play from behind, because for a lot of teams, especially around this kind of area of like gold and emerald and platinum, sometimes you get a lead and you can kind of just start to snowball the game from there. Like sometimes teams like don't know how to play from behind, right? And this, like, really Catalyst Eclipse really surprised me with how well they were able to be like, okay, especially in game number 1, they lost that bottom lane inhibitor rather early on. They lost a lot of turrets after that very early Baron play by Stun Gaming. Really, really well. Good job by them. But Catalyst was like, okay, let's play defensive. Let's be fine. We don't need to make any sort of really big plays. I felt like a lot of times they were just capitalizing on a lot of errors from Stunned Gaming. And I think that was kind of the big downfall here, is that Stunned was playing as if they were 10K ahead when they were only 1 or 2 or even 3, right? A lead to be sure, but not one that you can just like walk at the enemy and just be like, haha, we win. It's just not, there. And sometimes that amount of confidence can be enough to win you some team fights, right? But other times it's just going to be like, you're just going to be walking away with your screen black and white neg on your face.
Yeah. All comes down to execution. And like, honestly, unfortunately for Stun Gaming, Invictus, they could not execute. But hey, I mean, we also want to lift up the winners a whole lot. And that's remarkable that Chaos Eclipse were able to navigate deficits in game number 1 and game number 2. And honestly, I think every single member played pretty darn well. I think for me, I really liked seeing what Pastor brought in both games. Like game number 1, kind of saving things by holding things down and not also falling behind. Game number 2 is a little bit less so, but certainly I think Pastor did a great job. But overall, like the entirety because comeback victories don't typically happen with one person. Every
Right.
single person needs to be on the same page, and that's exactly what we saw. So, hats off to the entirety of the Catalyst Eclipse roster.
For sure. And once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. And that is going to be it from us tonight at Style Esports. Your winners for this evening is Catalyst Eclipse. They will be moving on through the Ishtal bracket on to next week, where once again, they are going to be taking on PSE Dawn, who like Stun Gaming Invictus was taken down. This is going to be a rematch of round 6 from a couple weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to see these two teams duke it out one more time. We'll see if PSE Dawn might be able to eke something out, but Catalyst Eclipse is looking really, really strong tonight. So once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, press that follow button. We've got League of Legends action for you watching nearly every single day for awesome games just like this one you've watched tonight. If you're feeling generous, press the subscribe button as well. It helps keep the lights on here at Style Esports and helps us provide this great content that you've enjoyed this evening. But for myself, the entire live broadcast crew, True to Bagel, my co-caster for this evening, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next match. Bye-bye.